traditionally, the majority of the creative economy work that's occurred in Massachusetts has occurred through something called the Massachusetts Cultural Council, which is the state's arts agency. They're the people that fund the museums, all the theaters. It's passed through money from the legislature. They also fund individual artists. They have an artist housing program. They also have a creative economy fund, which funds local community cultural economic development programs, so festivals. They do seed funding for industry initiatives. It's a really innovative program that's been very successful. And what's different about my position from what the Cultural Council has been doing, we also have a Sports Entertainment Commission, we have a film office, we have a travel and tourism agency that kind of handles all those different elements of what people might consider the creative economy. What I'm very much focused on and what our office does is it's really the industrial development agency for the state. So we're really the sales force for the state. We're the people that are out there supposed to be bringing jobs to the state in different industry sectors. So it's all based around for-profit industries. That's why I'm jealous of that data. I'd love to know what was, where we stood in all of those different industries. We have different studies coming out in some of them, like in design and in film. We have a couple studies coming out next year. Slightly ADD at the moment. In our agency, we really are very much focused on, bringing in jobs to the state. So I have counterparts in information technology and life sciences, manufacturing, clean energy, financial services, what you might consider all the other sort of traditional industrial sectors. And what our governor has done is he said the creative industry sectors, all the ones that you just mentioned, and I'll talk about the ones we're focusing on, which is not based on empirical evidence, but based on what we assume are our assets from what we've heard from a lot of different folks. We're actually the first state to have someone in an economic development agency like mine to focus specifically on the creative industries. That sort of says something about where this stands in the country. There's lots of cities that have focused on it, but at a state level, we're the first one to do it in the United States. So they've been doing it for 20 years. We're just catching up. So what are we focusing on? We're focusing obviously on the film industry. Everyone's been hearing a lot about that happening in Massachusetts. If you read the New York Times today, you heard a little bit more about it. We're focusing on the video game industry. Again, it's a young industry. We are one of the centers for video gaming here in the United States. 3 of the top video games in the world last year were made here. We have 76 companies. They do employ quite a few people. We're focusing on the design industry. We have the second highest number of designers in the country, actually, based on a recent national NEA study. And we're focusing on advertising because in digital advertising, we're actually the place that sort of invented digital advertising. We have a long history of it, and we have a $1.2 billion cluster in digital advertising here right now. So what are the ones I didn't talk about? Music. We have a large music cluster. We just have not quite gotten around to focusing on it just yet. Publishing, we have a large publishing cluster here. Quite a bit of it has left recently, like the Atlantic moved away, and a lot of it has shrunk quite a bit lately, and so we have not been focusing on that quite as much. So really the 4 ones that I'm focusing on, because I'm just one person, and that the 4 that this is a lot to focus on with just one person, is design, advertising, video games, and film. So what are we doing within each of those? Well, at the most basic level, we have a set of resources that we apply to all of our industries, and basically none of the creative industries knows that those resources even exist. So we're letting them know about all the state resources that they could be taking advantage of. That's a big first step. And then within each industry, we're trying to kind of set up surrogacy organizations or organizations on the ground that can help us do this work to help grow the industry, because we don't have, the governor is only guaranteed to be in office for another 18 months. We want this to live on for much longer, so we've funded a design industry initiative. We have the film office. We're working closely with a lot of local video game industry folks, and we're working closely. There's a very good advertising and digital advertising organization already on the ground that we're working with closely. What are some of the things we're doing? Well, we know that workforce is a really big issue in this state. Please stay. don't move away. Work in our creative industries. This is a great place to start a company. We're working to try to support entrepreneurs here. We have an incredible entrepreneurship. This is a Global Entrepreneurship Week, so I should have started by saying Massachusetts is a great place to start a company. We have a great entrepreneurship community here. And we're working on, helping those companies also access finance. We're working on rebranding Massachusetts as a place where the creative economy exists. I went to a video game trade show and was talking to the person who put on the trade show and said, "Oh, I'm from Boston." She was like, "There's video game companies in Boston?" And I was like, "Yeah, we had 3 of the #1 games last year, BioShock, Rock Band, and Lord of the Rings Online." Actually, the #1 in each of their the #1 console game, the #1 online game, and the #1 computer game were all made in Boston. She was like, "Oh yeah." So we have a brand problem, obviously. And then we really want to do a lot of events that relate to that brand, the rebranding of the state. For design, we're going to be doing a fashion event, a design education event, and a design and manufacturing event next year. One of the world's largest video game conferences is opening up its second home here in Boston, called the Penny Arcade Conference. We're going to be doing a festival, a celebration of video gaming around that conference. And we're going to be doing trying to do a lot of different job fairs for the creative economy too. This is really standard economic development stuff, but we've never really done it around the creative economy businesses. So there'll be a film workforce job fair in January. We're looking at doing one for the video game industry also. So basically, we're just trying to take all of those standard economic development tools and really apply them to this industry, because we've never really done it in the state before. When you look around the world, like in what they're doing in Toronto, what they've been doing in London, what they've been doing in Singapore, this is being taped, so I won't be. We are a little behind. Let's just leave it at that. So, and the thing is, we have the resources on the ground. We have the assets. This is not like North Carolina trying to create the Research Triangle Park to bring down a bunch of businesses. These companies already exist here. Avid Technology, one of the world's leading digital media companies, grew up out of Massachusetts. So we've got the assets. We just need to organize them and support them and continue to grow them here in the States. That's very much what we're focused on. Again, it sounds like, in the broader picture, how does it relate to all of us talking together? The one thing we are doing is the governor has just signed something called the Creative Economy Council legislation that will bring together all those disparate agencies that all have their own definition of the creative economy into one room. We have to it's tasked with coming up with a definition for the creative economy for the state, so I'd like your slides. Because it's tasked with coming up with a way to measure the creative economy and record all the data from it, so I'd like your slides. It's tasked with coordinating all the state agencies to figure out how we can be working all together to support the creative economy. It's tasked with basically coming up with what's the best plan for the state. What kind of public policy should we have to support the creative economy? So we at least have some methodology to get us to a place where we actually can begin to push this ball forward. So that's, basically I don't sleep. I'm like the kid in the ring, that movie. And there's an enormous amount to do. And I think there's still an incredible amount to do, even though that we're in, what some people are saying is a sort of drawback in recession, because it's sort of the perfect time to plan. The people who say, we just all should give up, that's the wrong thing to do. We think this is the perfect time to plan and lay in the groundwork for when the economy does turn back around, we'll be even more successful. So that's sort of one statewide perspective. There's a lot of other cities and different people focusing on this around the country. It all sort of sounds the same. If you go and look at the Innovation Philly website, it's all about job creation, workforce, validation, data recording, branding events, job fairs. It's all sort of the same kind of work that everybody's doing. I think the excitement you hear around it is that no one's ever really done this in America around these businesses. We've always just sort of assumed they were kind of going to be successful on their own. So government, for once, is listening and really wants to help.